Hey folks, you're just seeing maybe a little blurry, but just waiting for a student here today. I have something in my mind, maybe talk about here. It's all right. There you go. Okay. Um, and by the way, a few things I should mention that kind of updates logging wise. Yeah, I'm helping out the Seattle Philharmonic playing the fourth horn right now. So I'm doing two orchestras. So I'm doing some playing, which is good. Have a recital I'm in charge of coming up here on December 4th. Lots going on. Well, more going on in the past, which is good. So a while back, I had some new students. And I taught a sample lesson. You know, I just have to say, this was a very unique situation. There were members of my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And if I mentioned this before in another video, I apologize. But, you know, and because they're members of my church, I opened up quite a bit more to the mom during the first lesson than I normally would. And because of that, I don't think she wanted lessons for piano lessons for kids from me. And this is a weird situation because my whole intention was to, really be on the level with her about how I teach everything about me. So is the moral of the story then in this regard to not be for real, to not be on the level with parents? There's a reason why I'm talking to you guys about this stuff. And there is. Most certainly is. I everything I said to this mother of three kids, member of my church, these are people that I tend to trust more than most. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I was mistaken. Maybe that sounds very angry or very judgmental of my own church for me to say that. But sometimes there is no difference between a Mormon and anyone else when it comes to this kind of stuff. So maybe I'm going to try to settle down a little bit. But yeah, I just had to say it. When it comes, so if I am trying to be, this is how I teach, this is how I am, and I often don't say this is how I am, or I don't show sides to my own self to parents because because it's a professional relationship you're working there, right? But you do want the parent to know what you're like to the extent that they feel comfortable with you teaching their kids. That always has made sense to me from the day I started teaching piano lessons or any kind of lesson, horn lesson, composition lessons, whatever. The thing of it is that the question is, what kind of things would parents be uncomfortable with? There is nobody I have ever heard in my entire life that has ever talked about this subject with any degree of clarity across the board. So that the same thing in Washington and with these kinds of people, or these kinds of people, these kind of subcultures, apply to the same people in Maine or Florida or Spain or Russia or Nigeria or Ethiopia or Japan or wherever. There is no universal, this is across the board, this is what you say to parents, this is what you don't say. Now, there are some things you don't talk about with kids. But even that stuff isn't always agreed on. So this parent gave me some feeble excuse or some feeble reason why they weren't having lessons. When I say feeble, I'm actually kind of being nice to her in this regard. Nice to her. These are the kinds of people that I think when I was younger, I kind of wanted to avoid. because of how fake they were. Because of how fake they were. You know, and I've had some weird people that wanted to be friends with me that, you know, passed, one more recently. They could probably say the same thing about me. I wasn't real with them. But I know in these cases why I was the way I was. In this case, the one thing that I said to this woman that I think she was probably, like, maybe she was just like, well, I don't know. It had to do with having Asperger's syndrome. Folks, having Asperger's syndrome is no different than having any other kind of condition or physical disability or whatever. It's not something that someone chooses to have. It isn't too much information. It's not like we're talking about something super sensitive here. Yes, I realize there's a legal arena to this, but if a person tells you what's going on, it's not like something. It's not something against the law. There's nothing. It's only against the law if you finagle your way into learning about somebody's condition, some weird way, and then you do something unethical. I don't know. I don't fully understand it all myself, but I can say whoever I want to say I have this condition or whatever. And that was the one thing I can possibly think of. Because I'm always enthusiastic to teach anybody. It's always great meeting new people. I haven't heard back from this person. There's a reason I'm mentioning all this. I haven't heard back from this person for over half a year. They said they had some kind of conflict they were trying to work out. That's a bunch of BS. If they had a conflict, a real conflict, they would have gotten back to me by this point. They went with a different teacher. They had all these stars and points. I don't know what they had. And believe me, I've seen some weird methods before. I've seen some weird piano methods. They had so much jazz going on with their last teacher. I couldn't even follow it. And part of me was thinking that this woman was of the notion that a piano teacher had to be a certain way, had to have a certain bearing. That's a bunch of bullcrap too. The only thing that qualifies someone to be, the only things that should qualify someone to be a music instructor, private music instructor, are one, they have good character and they can work well with kids. I'm not trying to rape kids, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is that they know what they're talking about with regard to music. They're qualified to teach whatever they're teaching. What that means might vary from person to person. And even in that first instance, or in the first arena, that can vary from culture to culture a bit, what is acceptable, what's not acceptable. But those are the only two things. And, you know, of course, you probably want to be at a certain maturity level, but you even have teenagers sometimes they're teaching people. There's no union. There's no private teachers union out there. There's only a public teachers union. It's very much a, you know, it's just all over the map in terms of what different people expect. And if there's anything, I know I've talked about this before. On some level I have. So part of me actually is relieved that I'm not teaching these people. Because if I didn't open up and didn't say all that stuff and didn't have a heart-to-heart with that mom, despite however she thought it was best to get back to me, I would have been dealing with this weird attitude from these parents, thinking that all this stuff about what should be, I don't know, just thinking that it was like I should do things just like the same way as their last teacher that had these weird point systems and stars and I don't know what. Stickers, and there's nothing wrong with stickers. It's just, good heavens, man. It's not my problem. It's the lack of respect, you know? And also it's kind of like, I wonder how many of the people this has happened to. Honestly, I wonder how many people this has happened to. You know, and for the record, parents in general, and this is like more of a kindly request. I kind of would like it if parents, when they're talking to other parents about me, mentioned more stuff about how I am. Because if some people are looking for that kind of teacher, great. If others are not, so be it. I don't want to work with people that don't want to work with someone like myself. I really don't. And when it also comes right down to it, I know there's some kind of connection with even the social arena outside of professional stuff. I don't want anything to do with somebody who would just flat out talk to the hand. And it doesn't matter if it's dating, romance, or just friendship, or whatever. But some of that isn't even all that emotional. If some people just are just like, nope, I just know what kind of person you are, nope, or they think you do. And if you don't really care to know them, it's not a big thing. It often isn't a big thing. But it's obviously an attitude I don't like. It does exist in my church. I've known people who have had some serious beefs with my church. Some serious beefs with. Is any of this sinking in fully? Maybe a little bit? So much of the world revolves, and the way that people are hired or fired, different kinds of jobs, so much of the way the world has everything to do with an understanding of other people. And what people say or don't say. I cannot defend this world. I cannot defend that way of being. And people often say to me, this is just the way the world is. It doesn't matter. I've never accepted I've never accepted the status quo. I've never accepted the status quo ever in my entire life. I've always been uncomfortable with all kinds of stuff, including this stuff I'm talking about right now. And it's especially irksome. I'm talking about people that believe the same things I do religiously. So then I think that I have something more in common with them. And it turns out no. What am I to make of all this? And I still don't know. They've never talked to me about this. I still don't know what happened with these people. I mean, I remember teaching this girl over in Mercer Island. Had a bizarre piano teacher. Just the most bizarre method you could possibly imagine. Little stickies, little white papers attached to notes with I don't know what was on them. For the life of me, I'm like, what is going on here? Looking at her methods and things. Who does that stuff? She had all kinds of different books that she was using for this girl. There's nothing wrong with combining methods, but I'm like, nothing wrong with that at all. It's just, I was trying to make, it shouldn't take a whole lesson just to figure out what the last teacher was doing. I think I've mentioned this before in another video of mine, maybe. But even that experience with working with that family went infinitely better than this one. And when it comes to Mormons, when it comes to members of my own church, I'm just going to flat out say this very directly. This is, people you'll probably hear this again. Stuff about character and all this stuff about the way people are with different teachers. And as far as different kinds of people go, as far as different churches tend to go, we have some of the snobbiest, some of the most nitpicky people in my church. I understand this better than I used to. It's true that we do. And, it's like, what do we need? Some kind of bishop to, ask all kinds of, often people think personal questions about teachers that want to teach kids? Do we need that stuff going on? I'm not saying I disagree with that. I'm just saying, is that something we need? Do we need some kind of, parent-teacher association? No. We need some kind of parental board for different areas that, like, interviews private instructors? Do we need the private instructors need some kind of certificate? You know, people look for those background checks. I work for Take Lessons, and Take Lessons has a background check thing. I've been told that that doesn't really amount to very much. Sorry, folks, I gotta wrap this up and maybe teach a lesson soon here. But do we need that? I'm just saying, do we? Bizarre crap out there, folks. It's not my problem. It's the way the world is. I don't know. Leave any thoughts or comments below. Catch you guys later. Take care. Bye.